Next Monday night, Tuesday, is the yahrzeit of the Holy Ari. That is Rabbi Yitzhak Laurier, the greatest of the leader and greatest of the Tzfat Kabbalists. We're talking about in the 16th century. I'll tell you a story about him, a very interesting story, give you a little bit of insight into him. And afterwards I'll tell you some more general things about him. This story, by the way, is the first story in my first book, Saturday Night Full Moon. At the same time that the Ari was in Tzfat, and here we're talking about approximately 1570, there were two brothers, both great scholars. The older brother, Avram Galanti, subsequently became the chief rabbi in Jerusalem in the early 1600s. And his younger brother, Moshe Galanti, was one of the four to receive renewed smicha, rabbinical ordination from Rabbi Yosef Karo, the compiler of Shulchan Aruch. Rabbi Avram, the older brother, became acquainted with the Ari and appreciated his greatness. We're talking about, this is when the Ari first came to Tzfat. And his younger brother Moshe didn't really know him and didn't think that much of him. But his older brother Avram praised the Ari very much, and as a result, his younger brother Moshe decided to go visit the Ari. He came to see him, and he said, Rabbi, I hear that you were able to discern a person's soul and all his previous reincarnations. Well, I'm not. I want from you a rectification for my soul. The Ari said, "Who am I? I'm not a prophet. I'm not the son of a prophet." But Moshe didn't give up. He said, "Look, I'm not asking for you to tell me about my previous incarnations. I just want to know from the time I was born into this world until now, what do I have to rectify? What spiritual flaws do I have that need improvement and rectification? I heard you can see this on someone's forehead." The Ari demurred again. He didn't want to. Moshe pestered him, and finally the Ari stared at his forehead for a moment and said, "Borderline theft. Evek gezel. Gezel means theft. Evek means dust of gezel. Meaning not exactly theft, but something resembling theft. Borderline theft." Immediately, Moshe Galanti jumped up, ran home, took off his regular clothes, put on what's called mourning clothes, special clothes for somebody that's in a state of sadness, and began crying and berating himself. Then he got dressed again and went to his textile factory. By the way, it's interesting that nearly all the great scholars of that golden age of Tzfat were all businessmen as well. The Ari was an exporter of silk. Rabbi Galanti had a textile family, etc. And he called a meeting of all his workers, and he said, "Please, if I have in any way cheated or not paid properly any of you, please tell me, and I'll immediately pay you." Nobody stepped forward. He had them all sit in a circle around him, and he said, "Please, you must help me." The Ari said, "Borderline theft. I have a blemish in my soul. I must fix it. Please tell me if I did anything wrong to anyone." Everyone assured him he was the greatest boss, no problems. Finally, he felt desperate. He took off his hat, put it on the ground, put a bunch of money in it, bills and coins, and said, "Anyone who feels that they've been wronged in any way or they deserve more money, please take it, no questions asked." And after a few minutes, a woman stepped forward and took a few coins. Rabbi Galanti jumped up and ran back to the Ari. He said, "Look at me now." And the Ari said, "Clean." And the Ari was able to explain to him, this woman does the weaving that this woman does for you is a more delicate kind of work, a more complex kind of weaving than the others do. So it could be that she deserves to be paid at a slightly higher rate. Well, needless to say, after that, Rabbi Moshe Galanti was one of the great admirers of the Holy Ari.